For 10 years, I let them believe I was a nobody. Tomorrow, they'll find out I own them. The annual Whitmore family barbecue was in full swing, the sun casting a warm glow over the manicured lawns of my uncle's country club in Napa Valley. Laughter echoed, wine glasses clinked, and there was my cousin Caroline, slicing through the air with her voice like a sharp knife. "Oh wow, Ellie's here. Still pushing paper at some desk job, huh?" I paused, adjusting the sleeve of my understated cream dress, Valentino, though no one here would recognize it, and offered a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. They had no idea. By Monday morning, I'd be finalizing the acquisition of both Caroline's overpriced wellness app and my other cousin Zach's floundering venture fund. The same Redmond Group they thought I was still toiling away at, completely unaware that I controlled it through a web of holding companies and shell entities. I took a slow sip of sauvignon blanc, as if to savor the moment. To them, I was just Ellie Whitmore, the underachieving 34-year-old cousin who never quite lived up to the family's impossible standards. But in the financial world, I'm EW Capital, a silent yet dominant force behind some of the biggest private equity deals on the West Coast. Zach, wearing a flashy suit 2 sizes too big for him, swaggered over with a grin. "You know, Ellie, I could hook you up. We're always hiring entry-level admin staff. Better than whatever 9-to-5 grind you're stuck in." I hid my amusement behind the wine glass. He had no idea. I'd already bought Whitestone Ventures, his firm, piece by piece. It was mine now. "That's really generous, Zach," I replied sweetly. "But I think I'll stick to my current position." 8 years ago, after Grandpa Whitmore died, everyone thought his estate would be neatly divided among the grandkids. Instead, he made individual allocations. Caroline got angel investment money. Zach received control of the family's venture branch. Me, I was handed what they called the leftovers, his old real estate office in downtown Santa Rosa, and a $200,000 trust fund. They whispered behind champagne glasses, "Poor Ellie." She doted on her, but didn't leave her anything useful. What they didn't realize was that Grandpa's so-called shabby office sat on top of decades of quietly acquired mineral deeds and water rights worth tens of millions. He hadn't given me scraps. He'd given me a blueprint. We spent Sundays together, reviewing land maps, zoning laws, and oil rights. "You don't need to be loud to be powerful," he used to say. "Control isn't in attention, it's in patience." Now, as I watched my family flaunt leased watches and borrowed status, I smiled. They were all chasing validation, while I was quietly building my empire in silence. "Ellie, darling." My Aunt Beatrice floated over, all perfumed affection and air kisses. "We missed you at the Napa Club mixer last weekend. Caroline told us all about her big win. So proud." Caroline beamed, tucking a strand of carefully curled hair behind one ear. "We just closed another funding round, 10 million, zero debt," she added, flashing a pointed look in my direction. "But I'm sure tech finance isn't really your thing, is it?" I offered a polite nod, even as my mind flicked to the financial reports sitting on my home desk. Her company had been hemorrhaging money for months. That latest funding round wasn't a victory. It was a desperate life raft. And the anonymous investor throwing her that raft? Me. "Sounds exciting," I said, my voice smooth as satin. Before she could gloat too long, Zach jumped in. Whitestone just picked up 3 new AI startups, projected billion-dollar returns by next year. I almost laughed. His acquisitions were frantic grabs to distract from his fund's bleeding capital. The debt was piling up faster than the press releases. It's what made taking over Whitestone so easy. Desperation makes people careless. "How wonderful for both of you," I said, genuinely. And it was just not in the way they thought. Then came Reed, the self-declared prodigy of the Whitmore financial legacy. He sauntered over, lips curled in that smug way only trust fund heirs can manage. "Still shuffling paperwork for Redmond, Ellie? You've got to start thinking bigger. Caroline and Zach are building empires." If only he knew. The paperwork I push includes multi-million-dollar zoning approvals and redevelopment blueprints. The Redmond Group, under my control, now holds half of downtown Santa Rosa and massive swaths of land across 2 states. I took another sip. We can't all be entrepreneurs, I said lightly. They laughed. They pitied me. They thought I was stuck. Even my own mother joined the chorus. You had such promise, Elle, but have you even tried to grow your career? Aunt Beatrice chimed in, nodding toward her son. Trevor's doing wonders with Grandpa's old firm. He could mentor you. I almost felt bad. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, Trevor would walk into a boardroom and discover that EW Capital, his mysterious new majority stakeholder, had full authority to remove him. And would. I'm happy where I am, Mom, I said with a calm smile. Caroline caught that and laughed. Happy? Ellie, come on. You should want more than comfortable. We're raising again next month. Through EW Capital, Zach added, puffing his chest. I raised my glass. Good luck with that. They're huge, Zach said, nodding proudly. Massive name and private equity. Total mystery, but we've heard they're circling both our companies. I swirled my champagne slowly, masking the smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. EW Capital, my creation, my chessboard, had been years in the making. 6 relentless years of structuring a fortress built on shell companies, blind trusts, and signatures inked behind layers of discretion. It had grown into a silent juggernaut, swallowing companies from San Diego to Seattle, all without ever showing its face. Tomorrow, the curtain would lift. I've heard of them, I said evenly, careful to keep my tone laced with casual curiosity. They've built quite the portfolio. Caroline scoffed, barely hiding the contempt in her voice. As if you would grasp what a deal like that even entails. Zach chuckled, stabbing at his half-eaten steak. Yeah, Ellie, let the adults handle the real strategy. You just stick to your spreadsheets. I opened my mouth, but before I could respond, Aunt Beatrice clapped her manicured hands and summoned us to the dinner table, as if herding a flock of designer-clad peacocks. I found myself seated between the two of them, Caroline on my left, Zach on my right, both already in full performance mode. It felt less like a family dinner and more like a televised pitch war. Zach leaned forward, puffing out his chest. Whitestone Ventures is on the brink of our biggest deal yet, he declared. Once EW Capital signs, we're going global. I'm talking billions and upside. Caroline scoffed and flipped her hair with the precision of a seasoned reality star. Please, your firm's a relic. My wellness AI platform is the future. And trust me, EW knows it. They're leaning my way. If only they understood the truth. Their fates had been sealed weeks ago, the moment their investor packets landed on my desk. Their slide decks, their balance sheets, their forecasts, I had read every word. And now both companies were tucked neatly into my portfolio, acquired under a veil of silence and strategy. Their future had already been carved out, behind boardroom doors lined with mahogany and ironclad NDAs. Ellie, sweetheart, my mother's voice floated over the wine and noise. Have you thought about going back to school? You always wanted that MBA. In my mind, I was already in my office. Polished marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Santa Rosa skyline, and a wall lined with framed acquisition contracts. Each one a silent conquest. My security detail, always present, never visible. My empire wasn't built in lecture halls. I'm good where I am, Mom, I replied, soft but certain. Zach let out a low laugh. And that's the issue, no ambition. If Grandpa saw you now... My fingers drifted to the delicate gold key around my neck, the one that unlocked Grandpa's old office. The office where he first taught me how land rights could shape futures and silence could build legacies. I think Grandpa understood more than you ever did, I said, meeting his gaze. The conversation moved on to vacation homes, new yachts, and ski trips in the Alps. But I caught it, the flash of unease between Zach and Caroline. Tomorrow's meeting with EW Capital wasn't just a pitch, it was survival. Their companies were bleeding out, and they were hoping for a miracle. They just didn't know the angel investor was the same cousin they'd dismissed and mocked for over a decade. When dessert came, I stood and slipped away. "Big day tomorrow," I said, excusing myself. "Don't work too hard filing those reports," Caroline called after me, her laugh sharp and shiny like the diamonds on her ears. In my car, an armored Audi dressed to blend in, I dialed my assistant. "Everything in place for tomorrow?" I asked, eyes on the road, voice calm. "Yes, Miss Whitmore," came the reply. "The boardroom is reserved. Contracts finalized. All members have been briefed. Your cousins won't see it coming." I drove through the glowing streets of Santa Rosa and up to my penthouse loft. No velvet curtains, no pastel murals, just soft wood, clean lines, and a stillness that echoed strength. Grandpa would have approved. In my office, I reviewed the documents one last time. Not because I had to, but because this moment, the moment before the reveal, was one I wanted to savor. Tomorrow, EW Capital would lift the veil, and my entire family would see the truth. They thought I'd built a career. They had no idea I'd built a legacy. That night, alone in Grandpa's office, I paused at the old photo on my desk. It was always there. Him and me, hunched over a zoning map. His smile was proud but quiet. Always quiet. The best kind of success, he once told me, is the kind they never see coming. Tomorrow, they'd finally understand what he meant. The next morning, I didn't wear my usual neutral skirt and cardigan. I wore war paint, a tailored Navy power suit that cost more than Caroline's SUV. Sophie, my assistant, met me at the private elevator with a knowing smirk. "Both your cousins are already here," she said. "Caroline's on her third request for matcha. Zach's pacing like he's in a hostage situation. They feel it coming," I replied. "They just don't know it's me." The conference room at Redmond Group sat high above the skyline. Inside, Zach and Caroline perched at opposite ends of the long glass table, cloaked in fake confidence. Their lawyers looked tense. "What is she doing here?" Caroline snapped as I entered. "This is a private meeting with EW Capital." Zach laughed, dismissive, predictable. "Ellie, thanks for the moral support, but this is above your pay grade. Maybe grab us some coffee while the real players talk." I set my briefcase on the table. Calm, centered, ready. "I think you'll find I'm exactly where I need to be." Sophie handed out folders, one by one. "Please review the contents," I said evenly. "You'll find full documentation of EW Capital's ownership of both Whitestone Ventures and Caroline Tech, as well as the proposed terms for the merger." Zach froze, mid-page. Caroline's lips parted. This has to be a mistake." Then her voice cracked. "EW Capital, is you?" I took my seat at the head of the table. "Ellie Whitmore, founder and CEO of EW Capital, majority shareholder of Redmond Group, and as of this morning, the owner of both your companies." Zach's jaw clenched. "You're a secretary." "No," I said, calm as ever. "I let you believe that, just like I let you think Grandpa's old building was worthless. Just like I let you think your companies were still under your control. But my tech platform," Caroline stammered. "We had new funding." "Because I arranged it," I nodded. "Through one of my subsidiary arms. You've been propped up this whole time." Zach was flipping through the papers in a panic, face draining. "Whitestone Ventures, my father's company, has been mine for months," I said gently. "Those high-risk investments you used to patch holes? I bought the debt, quietly, strategically." The doors burst open. My mother, Aunt Beatrice, a few others, summoned by panic texts. "What's going on?" my mother demanded. "Why are they saying something about Ellie and some capital firm?" "Perfect timing," I smiled. "Sophie, bring up the presentation." The wall screen lit up. A sleek web of logos, trusts, equity groups, shell corporations, all spiraling back to one hub, EW Capital. This, I said, turning to the room, is the real me. Over 8 years, while they whispered about my wasted potential, I was building this. Over $500 million in 0 cents assets, spanning real estate, technology, private equity, including Redmond Group, Whitestone Ventures, Caroline Tech, and over 30 other firms they'd never heard of. My mother stared, speechless. How? Remember Grandpa's worthless office downtown? I asked. It came with property rights, water claims, mineral deeds, millions in hidden value. He didn't leave me scraps. He left me a foundation. Caroline's voice was ice. You deceived us. Just like you deceived your investors, I replied. Your company's been bleeding for years, Caroline. You wore your debt like designer labels. And Zach, your empire was built on borrowed time. We were building something, Zach said, desperate. You were playing business, I said. Image over substance. I turned to the legal team. Shall we move to the merger terms? The next hour was a storm of signatures, restructure agreements, and hushed phone calls. Zach was reduced to an investment advisor. Caroline, no longer CEO, was offered a consultant role with guardrails. After the dust settled, my mother lingered. All these years, she said softly. We thought we were the successful ones. Success doesn't always speak loudly, I replied. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one shaping the future. In the months that followed, the dynamic shifted. With real oversight and funding, Caroline's startup finally turned a profit. Zach, no longer calling the shots, actually learned the fundamentals. At the next family gathering, they didn't talk over me. They listened. Really listened. As for Grandpa's office, I kept it. Renovated the floor, but left his desk untouched. Some nights I'd sit there alone, fingers tracing the grain of the old oak, and I could still hear his voice. True power doesn't need an audience. One evening I found Zach waiting downstairs. I've been thinking, he said quietly. All those years we showed off. We missed what Grandpa was trying to teach us. I touched the gold key around my neck. What was that? That real success isn't about looking powerful. It's about being powerful. You built an empire while we played dress up. I nodded. Want to know the real secret? He leaned in. Success doesn't need applause. It needs patience, focus, and the strength to keep building while everyone thinks you're failing. As I walked to my car, the city skyline rose in front of me. My skyline. Though few knew it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting, I told you so. It's proving yourself right. Quietly. Completely. Until they can't ignore it anymore. And sometimes that truth comes wrapped in a $500 million 0 cents empire. The sweetest success? Victory on your own terms. If they ever called you the quiet one, if they laughed when you said you had plans, if they looked right through you like you didn't matter, drop a comment. Tell me, what are you building when no one's clapping? And if this story lit a fire in you, subscribe. Not for the drama, but for the truth. You don't need validation. You don't need a stage. You just need vision, discipline, and the guts to keep building in the dark. Because one day, they won't just notice you, they won't be able to look away.